All right. So this is going to be good. This is going to be juicy. This is going to be angry. No, not angry, but I'm going to talk about why people are angry at Mormonism and some of the hard feelings. And there's a perception of people who've left the church that Mormonism robbed them of their choice, that it took away years of their lives that they would have done in other more productive ways, but because of certain manipulative tactics, people were tricked into spending a lot of time that they'll never get back. Time is arguably the most important resource for humans. And that people are angry that they spent so much time. And it's not even that they spent so much time in Mormonism, it's that the tactics that were used to convince them to spend time. And so we're going to talk about choice and agency. Well, should these people just be quiet and just accept that they chose this and they need to accept the consequences? Or are they rightfully justified in speaking up? And do they have a point that, no, they were actually robbed of choice in their life? So let's go to some specifics here now. And this is actually important to Mormons because agency is a big doctrine of Mormonism, that we're here, we have a freedom of choice, to choose good, which is be a Mormon, or not, which is don't be Mormon, don't believe in Mormon stuff. So let's go to some key pivotal times in people's lives. When you're 8 years old and you get baptized, do 8-year-olds actually choose to get baptized? And looking at this from a psychological perspective, no, they don't. One of the evidence is that little 8-year-old Mormon kids who have two Mormon parents aren't actually choosing, is that 100% of them get baptized. Now they're choosing in the sense that it's kind of like, here's chocolate ice cream. You can have chocolate ice cream or no ice cream. Oh yeah, I choose a chocolate ice cream. That's kind of a choice in a very superficial way. But there's the reason why I don't think baptism is a choice for an 8-year-old is one, children are wired to believe in their parents, and this is a survival mechanism. It's instilled to us by evolution, and the idea being that kids who obey their parents survive long enough to have other kids. And so the trait as a kid of believing their parents is what keeps them alive. And you think about little kids who just don't believe their parents and do the opposite of what they say. Well, our early ancestors who lived in a much more dangerous world. The parents would say, hey, don't eat that berry, it's poisonous. And if the kid goes and eats it, they die. And so the kids who believe, they pass on their traits. And there's a lot of other, tribal dynamics going on there. But like little kids, they've got that thing going where, look, an 8-year-old, they're going to believe whatever you tell them about the world. If you tell them, hey, Jesus is really wants you to get baptized and he's going to bless you and give you a lot of good stuff. And if you don't, then bad stuff might happen. They're going to get baptized. You also have years of indoctrinating, of songs, of a peer group of their friends and are getting baptized. There's that peer pressure. The leaders are telling them to get baptized. So there's no choice going on here. But baptism is not the biggest choice, I think, in people's lives. And I don't think a lot of post-Mormons feel resentful that they were baptized. It's kind of a meh. But where it starts to get a little murkier is on missions, and especially education and marriage. So a mission, now we're talking about some serious commitment at pivotal times in people's lives. 2 years for men, and 1.5 years for women. Now there's at this time, a lot of other things you could be doing besides going and doing sales for the Mormon church for free, funding your way. You could be halfway to your degree, and that's a big thing. Now there's also a lot of worse things you could do than serve a mission. I feel people are kind of, split. Like I overall, for me, like do I regret my mission? I'm fortunate. I went to Mexico and I learned Spanish, and that in itself was uh, great. I think had I gone stateside, I probably would be a little bit more resentful. But overall, I think my mission was good. It, it did create, I think, some psychological problems later on because of my personality, and I was really into the mission. I got way into it. Was very successful as a missionary, was like way into Mormonism, and there was this indoctrination that happened that was really hard to cope with, leaving that environment of the mission and this big purpose of life, we're saving souls, and then getting back to reality and actually starting to feel really depressed because nothing, it's like, well, now I've got to I'm going to go to school and play guitar or something, do music. But that's so, if everything felt so insignificant towards what we were doing in the mission, saving souls. So that's another question, how that played out psychologically for me. I don't think was very good. But the question though is, do people choose to serve missions? And whereas 100% of 8-year-olds get baptized, I think people at this age have more choice. So obviously with age, we get more cognitive abilities. And yeah, a 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old is more capable of choosing to go on a mission. Yet there are a lot of pressures to serve a mission that strip away that freedom of choice. And when I'm talking about freedom of choice, it's just like, look, here's an option, here's the pros and here's the risks, and here's another option, and here are the pros and the cons. And the problem with Mormon teaching, with missions, is that it's basically now taught that there's no excuse for you not to go on a mission other than you're sick or you're sinful. It used to be more of an option, I think, in the early days. And now it's basically, there's no reason why you shouldn't serve a mission. If you think you shouldn't serve a mission, you think God doesn't want you to serve a mission, you're just deceived. And so it's very manipulative in that aspect. It's really like, if you're a good person, you're going to go on a mission. There's a lot of pressure also. If you want to marry a cute Mormon girl, she's going to want a returned missionary. You've also now been told for 18 years that that's what boys do. That's what you're supposed to do. There's always, that fear of damnation. Mormons say it differently. It's not like this hell, painful, but it's kind of like, hey, if you want to go live with Jesus and your family forever and, be married for all time and eternity, you've got to do this. And, if you don't do it, that's your own choice. Just, you need to know that for eternity, all of these blessings are going to be stripped from you. That in itself robs people of choice. It's kind of like, the mafia boss comes to your work and says, hey, you'll pay me 10% of your profits or I'm going to kill you, or maybe your family too, but it's your choice. Do you really have a choice there? If you're really afraid, and you're justified in paying him 10% because he knows where your family lives, are you choosing to pay him 10%? Are you choosing to obey him? I would say, no, you're being manipulated. You're being coerced into paying the mafia boss. And I think with Mormonism, it's the same psychology. It's like, you're free to choose Mormonism, but you just need to know that if you don't do everything the prophet says, your family might not be with you forever, and you might be banished to a lower kingdom. But it's your choice. It's just super manipulative. And it's actually funny because that's actually a more higher stakes scenario than the mafia boss. With the mafia boss, he's just threatening to kill you and your family for time. And in Mormonism, we're talking about eternity. So it's actually more manipulative than the mafia boss. So it's just funny. When you say things are going to happen in eternity, it's okay, and you can threaten people. But when you say it's just in life, you go to jail. So that's a mission. Did I choose to serve a mission? More so than getting baptized, But yeah, so, and I don't have a ton of regret for my mission. I don't know. It's hard to know how my life would have panned out. But where people get resentful, and I think women especially, is the way they treat school, marriage, and children. When I got home from my mission, there, like, I had to get married. There was no, it's just, that is the next step. Like, it's almost, there's nothing I could do about it. Like, I had to find a woman and I had to get married. And everything's a mixed bag. Am I glad I married my wife and had my kids? Yeah. Would I tell my kids to go about it the same way that we did? No. Look, there's no reason. This is what you're told. And I don't know if they still tell you this, but it's basically, your life is this. You go to mission, you get home, get married very soon, and start having kids as soon as you can. And the idea is you have kids and then you graduate from school. And that was the advice we were given. There was no other way. And also, you're this 21-year-old kid, and all of your sexual desires have been repressed, and you're just horny like most 21-year-olds are, and you want to start having these experiences. And so, like, even getting married wasn't like, I don't necessarily like regret that. And this is funny because my wife will watch this, and I'm not like trying to, we've talked about this. I'm not trying to be like, well, yeah, I don't know, babe. No, it's more about, as a strategy for life, would I pass on the Mormon plan to my kids? And it's no. It'd be like, look, one, spend your early years getting to know yourself and find out what you're into. And look, go expose yourself to hard things. Go do some summer sales, go to, if you want to, or go to school, do hard things. And then go get your education. And then when you're feeling ready, you can get married and have kids or not. But look, there is a biological timeline going to, so keep that in mind. But you have a choice. And I think with Mormon women, where they get resentful is you have these really talented, intellectual, artistic women who have this need to express it, but they're basically taught, like, if you do that, that's really not what Jesus wants. So your job is to marry a missionary, and you can have kids, and you can be a mom, and you should want to just be a mom. And if you don't, you just need to suppress that desire. And maybe you'll graduate from school or not, but that's really not that important. What's important is that you take care of your man, because, if you're in the workforce, you're taking a job away from a young man. It's like the most manipulative psychobabble. I would never teach that to my young girls. And I've talked about this with my wife. It's like secular society. If you just think about it, it's like, look, you can have it all in a sense. If you do things right and you're strategic, you can go to school. Good. Strive to your intellectual desires. And especially if you don't serve a mission, you can graduate by the time you're, 21, 22. You can have a master's degree by the time you're 24, 25. And then you can work a couple years, and then you can have kids, you can have a family. But for me, like, what was so hard was this going to school. And especially for me, I'm kind of a creative guy. I was doing music. I have a certain, everybody's born with different personalities, psychological temperaments, levels of positive, negative emotion, of extroversion, of openness. And like, for me, it was very traumatic going from kind of this kid and yay, all the success in the mission and, oh, cool, getting married. And then I'm going to kind of do what I want. I want to do some music and la da da da. And then all of a sudden, like, wait, I need to have kids. And then I have these lives, like these little beings that I need to take care of. What am I? And for me, it was like I was doing jazz guitar at the time at the U, and it was all of a sudden like this crisis of like, wait a second, what am I doing? Like, is this just like me being super selfish? Like doing this? I mean, I need to, provide for these kids. What am I doing with my life? And with my wife, very frustrating. She is an immigrant, came from Mexico here, and really wanted to go to BYU and, get her degree. And all of a sudden, like, you have to now if you want to go to get a degree, you have to have babies. You have to put your husband first, make sure he gets through college. And if you can juggle that, you can go to school also. And it's like just this boom, overwhelm, especially for my personality. It just did not go over well. And I was very depressed for a long time, and just dealing with my own psychological problems, and also being in growing up in kind of like a naturalistic faith healing type of family, not believing in like psychiatry. And I remember I self-diagnosed for something, depression. And I'm not going to like say who, it's not important, but basically I wanted to get some psychological help, and the solution was, well, you just need some priesthood blessings. That's what we decided on. And I was like a zombie for 7 years of my life. And I just got so used to life seeming completely like meaningless, and it was just kind of, I'd do my things, and I'd go I'd teach guitar lessons and take care of my family, and I like doing my best, but just feeling like this like zombie. Later I talked to my psychiatrist, and she's like, oh yeah, that's not normal. But like, the point being, there's consequences to this Mormon stuff. It builds up resentment over time. Oftentimes, Mormon women, they're taught to do this thing, and then they look back and they're like, I wouldn't have chosen this. But like, you're not trying to have like cop out and play the victim in your life, but you're like, wait, other people who didn't grow up in this extreme environment, they got to make choices about their life. They got to discover who they were and develop their personality. And I remember with me, it was just like completely bulldozed, especially like in the mission. It's just, you're just bulldozed. And just like being like, I don't know who I am. All I know is everything that I like is bad. Everything I like is wrong. I need like, just so, and I find this also with Mormon people, just so like conflicted. Like, I should just be able to cut off all my desire, and I should just like be able to like go and do church, and maybe someday I'll be a bishop or something, and play it safe. And it was a mess. And now I know people who are in their 60s and 70s, and they're looking back at their life, and they're like leaving Mormonism is like, what the crap was that? That wasn't my life. And again, is this just a cop-out? Or people just blaming Mormonism? Like, it's hard to know what the baby in the bathwater is. There is some good stuff that came out of it, don't get me wrong, but that's not what this video is about. It's people are trying to figure out their lives, and what was manipulative about the whole thing is the lack of information. So, and the brainwashing into looking at other information is bad. And when I was in seminary, specifically, do not look at anything anti-Mormon. You're going to feel very bad. That's the devil. And there was just this closed worldview. And that's what, polygamous cults do. The way you can control people's minds is you cut them off from good argument, outside information. And like, the proof that people would make different decisions if they were given the information is seen today. People are given the information and they're leaving the church. People now have access to real information, and they choose not to go on a mission. So for me, that's like the proof. No, the information matters, because now that people are being given it, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't want this. This is not what I thought it was. And they leave. Where I think my generation and earlier generations, it was just, the information was restricted. And for me, that was the big breaking point. I was like, wait, okay, the church is now coming out saying this is true. So you're telling me like these ex-Mormons, these bad people, were telling the truth? Why they were the good guys? And you guys were the ones hiding all this stuff? It was so disorienting. Like, I'm supposed to like look towards Mormonism for my personal growth and everything, and feeling miserable also. And then realizing like, oh my gosh, you guys are the liars. And anyway, everybody has their stories. There's about how they they leave Mormonism. But people are rightfully, I mean, it's using unethical tactics to strip away people's choice to make them think they're actually choosing to be in this cult. Now, like, and it's hard. You have to reconcile, like, okay, I did not do life the way I thought I would, and I wouldn't have chosen this way. All we can just kind of pass on to our kids. And there's this whole paradox too, where, like, I've made peace with my life, and it's not like I wouldn't want to have my kids or I wouldn't want to have my family. That's this is the whole hard thing about like regret and looking at life. It's like, well, what would you do differently? It's like, well, if I didn't go on a mission, I wouldn't have met my wife and I wouldn't have my kids. And so, actually, I'm thankful for Mormonism. No, that's not how you do it. You're looking at, when I'm trying to take the baby out from the bathwater, a good way to look at it is like, okay, what would I teach my kids to do? And it's like, my girls don't need to be pressured to have kids sooner than they're ready. And on the other side, they need to know, like, look, if you want to have kids, it's generally, there is kind of a biological clock going. So, but in your 20s, there's plenty of time to do a ton of stuff and accomplish a ton of stuff. And then in your 30s, if you want to have, kids, your mid 30s, that's great. But it's just like that whole, and people come to that conclusion rationally. They just think about it, it's an option. And, maybe I would have looked at that option and still have decided to do the way I wanted it. But what's hard for people is that option was stripped away. It's like that option is bad and your nervous system is bad. You can't do it that way. This is the way you have to do it, make it work. And that's what is manipulative. I don't think there's any other things to, address here. Yeah, and so hopefully, I hit that, and I'm going to do another video. It's interesting with Mormonism. It's when you do like personality profiles, I really think it just hits a certain personality profile, and everybody who I see leaving, they have this other personality profile, which they're born with genetically, and it's just really funny. It's kind of like, and you look at like all of the general authorities and things too. It's like, oh yeah, they're all from the same mold. It's really funny. So that's another conversation. Hope you enjoyed this. I enjoy getting this off my chest. Let me know if this was helpful. If you have any comments, anything I should add, and I'll see you next time. Bye.